Well, it's true that our young people are growing. Zion is 12 today. And again, I remember when I was 12. One of the things I did when I was 12 is I made a decision to say yes, for the first time in my life, about God. I was baptized, and in all of that, I started a life as a believer. Some of our young people are going to do that next month as well, so I'll let you know a little bit more about how we can encourage our young people on that journey as we think about the prophets. Honestly, if I had my druthers, I'd find something a little bit more timely for me than the prophets, the Old Testament prophets. But this is my very first time that I've ever actually decided to do a sermon on Obadiah, and I'm going to do this in 4 parts in the next 4 hours here. No, it's a beautiful journey for me. It gets a little repetitious, though. So let's break it up with a little bit of a quiz, okay? Some of our young people right now in the high school are at the Bible conference there. Then we have a whole group of freshmen going to college, and they're getting launched this week. So we have a lot of activity going on, but I think it's appropriate to have a quiz. Are you ready? We're going to do a theme on the shortest things in the Bible. What's the shortest psalm in the Bible? Raise your hand. Thank you. 17. Yes, correct. Psalms 117. Now, that's how many verses? 2. Okay. What's the shortest verse in the Bible? All right, you got the verse and the answer. 2 words, Jesus wept. Actually, there are verses in some versions that's just a number there, but that's not actually included in the actual text, but it's a manuscript thing. All right, what's the shortest prayer in the Bible? Raise your hand. What's that? That's right. It's Peter going into the water. I think it's probably always good to jump into the water and maybe have a little prayer first. But in the middle of that, he says, Lord, save me. And if you were to pray that prayer, that might be all you need, right? Okay, the shortest of all of the 10 commandments. Okay, do we really need to do that? You shall not steal. All right. Okay, who's the shortest man in the Bible? Anyone. 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 Okay. Morgan. Zacchaeus. It's correct, but there is another one that I didn't know it was a joke. Some people think they're jokesters. It says, no, in fact, it's in the book of Job. You remember one Job's friends, his name is Bildad? He's Bildad the Shuhite. So I didn't know about that. It was a joke. I thought, really, maybe that's a thing. 20 years, finally got the joke, okay? I know. I'm working on my knowledge or my awareness. All right. What's the shortest book in the New Testament? 2 John. It's only a few verses. There are 13 verses. The 2 John. And the shortest book in the Old Testament, I'll give you a clue, okay? We'll put it on the screen. The next slide is, all right, Most of you are going to get at least a B. All right. This is the shortest book in the entire Old Testament. Now, the setting of this book is remarkable. All of the minor prophets and even the older prophets, they're actually focusing on something that's going on with Israel or Judah or something that's going on with the church, so to speak. But this actual book is not about Judea or Israel. It's actually a message for the whole world, for a group of people. The setting is really about the family. You know, Abraham had a son. His name is Isaac, and he had two sons, twin boys, Jacob and Esau. And Jacob became Israel, and Esau became the father of Edom, right? For the beginning, there was this tension between these brothers, and throughout the centuries, the nations fathered and reflected their rivalry. When Israel journeyed out of Egypt, they're trying to go through this area. Edom was there in the way, and they said, no, you cannot go through. You remember that story. Later in the days of David, they were fighting in that time. And so Judah had been, in this time, had been crushed. And remember all the stories that we have about Daniel and Meshach and Abednego and that stories. These boys and girls, and they were brought into their land, into Babylon. So in this moment, this is the setting, okay, of Obadiah. And Obadiah is actually not going to target Judea, or they're not going to talk about those who are in Israel in the northern part. He's going to focus on the onlookers of this whole scene. So as all of Babylon is bringing all of the Israelites into captivity, kicking them out their cities and their homes and pulling people out, Edom comes in and is doing two things. They're laughing, they're mocking, they're actually standing back, watching all of this, and he's actually going into the houses and the cities and getting some cool stuff. If there's a leftover car, or if there's a great refrigerator, or maybe you got some great plants and stuff like that, they're going to go and just plumage that whole area, okay? So this is a scene. Obadiah is going to capture kind of something that's at the very center of the human heart. It's a principle that runs in all of us. It's a truth that we'd rather not admit, but it's something that we all know too well. When those that we dislike or we have disagreements to, people who aren't not directly connected to people, these are not my best friends, but we might live in our proximity. When people experience moments of disappointments, or they stumble, or they are dragged away in shame, like this time, there is a sense of the human heart to just smirk, isn't it? So to say, yeah, it's about time. A sense of satisfaction when people starts to get a sense of justice, and you get to watch from the sidelines and say, I told you so. You know, that that feeling, if you don't have that sense when your opposer or the other person on the other side of the aisle has to hand over the power, or one of those moments where you see people who are always arrogant finally gets humbled in shame, and you kind of like to just smile a little bit inside, don't you? Well, this is one of those things that the prophet Obadiah is going to say. I want to talk about that. It is a truth we'd rather not admit, but it's true in our hearts. We like to smirk. We like to have that sense of satisfaction. We tend to think that our feelings like that or those attitudes are somehow okay. When we do reflect about it, we tell ourselves things like, well, it's just really justice. Or we say something like this, they're just getting their comeuppance. And all of that, you say, well, the harder you are, the harder you, or the bigger you are, the harder you fall, right? And some people will actually steal little pieces of Hinduism and will basically say, no, karma will get you eventually, because karma is very disappointing for some. But people will actually, when they get some sort of a justice in there, they think they're using that phrase like, well, you reap when you sow, right? So these are all some of the impulses that we have when we see people getting their comeuppance, right? That the reality of their choices, right? If they made better choices, right, they would have different results. Well, have you had all of your good decisions found yourself in a good place every time? Now, how many times have we done the right thing and we get a different result? Now, it's good to ask for justice for other people. It's hard for us. We like to call out for mercy when it's for us. But Obadiah is going to unmask this impulse for what it is. It's called gloating over the downfall of another person. And in that moment, he exposes something deeper in all of us. This dangerous delight, really, in another person's ruin. His message is not about Edom, it's about the human heart. All right, so you see, Obadiah is going to say only a few things. We'll read them right now. It says in verse 2, it says this. He says, I will make you small among the nations. He's talking about Edom. He says, you will be utterly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, and you will live in the clefts of these rocks, and you make your home on the heights. You say to yourself, who can bring me down, right? And notice this in this passage here. The danger part of a pride isn't it doesn't break you. It doesn't break your heart. It doesn't disfigure you. It doesn't deflate you. Instead, it does something even worse. It deceives you. It deceives you that you think you are right and somebody else is wrong. And that place is very hard to come out of. Verse 4, it says, though you soar like the eagle and make your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down. Well, if God came and had a message about me and it was like that, I would be pretty concerned. When you think about Edom and these words, what is this language about these rocks and the sense of security? It is. Edom has chosen their place. Outside there in Jordan, there's this area, this mountain range, and they inhabited this place, and it had cliffs. They made caves, and they make a whole city inside of this place. And so when the Israelites were trying to come through, no way. But this is a fortified area, and they thought that they were so undefensible. Like you could not get us. We are stable, secure, and in that moment, that's when God says, I will bring you down. I was there in Jordan a couple of years ago, and we were gathering in this place, and we were hearing the stories really about this group of people and the sense of strength that they had in themselves, in their home, in their jobs, in their profession, in their wealth. They had so much stored wealth in this area, hiding in this place. Who can bring us down? And here they are, brothers essentially competing. When I think about athletes, like professional athletes, and whether they're professional ones or these are students who are in the varsity games, they go and they play. And somebody gets injured. Like the whole time, whether it's football or baseball, we'll throw a ball at a person's head or whatever. They're doing things that are kind of aggressive. We are fighting them in the game, right? And you're playing football and you're hitting them hard. Playing soccer, volleyball, you don't really hit the other person, but that's actually the best sport, really, for that. But when they're fighting each other, it's a game, and it's very real. When somebody gets hurt, what happens? Well, I know the students, if there's an injury, somebody's knee gets, hurt, or somebody hits their head hard, and they have to bring a vehicle out to strap their body. What are the other athletes that are fighting each other doing? They take a knee. They put their knee down to say that there's something more important than this fight that we have. Students will do that as well. They're taught to do this of, just being good sports. And in all of this, there are moments in sports where when the quarterback goes down or somebody gets hurt and the fans are the worst, they'll cheer. And it's the only athletes that have to look to the fans and say, stop it. That's not what it's about. And that virtue is there in those moments. It's not here with Edom. And it's not true in the world, is it? There is one verse in the center of this book. In verse 15, it says this: "The day of the Lord is near for all nations. As you have done, it will be done to you, and your deeds will return upon your own head." Don't be surprised when your security is not secure anymore. It happens for everyone. And it's not given to give fear, but a sense of understanding. The notion that it won't happen to me or it shouldn't happen to me is a deceiving attitude. Why not me and just somebody else? Remember of some of the what we call timeless attitudes. I call them attitude adjustments. Growing up, when I was a high school student, my dad used to say a phrase often to me. He wouldn't say an attitude adjustment. It's too many syllables. He said, "Boy, curb your attitude." And he meant it. And I used to actually try to be clever and say, I wonder if I could just do that right now, just change my attitude. Like if the whole world could actually change their whole heart just by flipping a switch. And in all of that doesn't work that way. But it was the call. That is the command. There's some adjustments. So we have this. This is not a new concept. For Edom, the people who are looking around, watching what's happening to the children of Israel, the people of Judah who are being put into captivity, and they're clapping and cheering, he says to them that this is not a brand new thing. This is a constant thing that happens over and over. Because there's this tension inside of us. Again, we want mercy when we fail, but justice when others fall. And life is going well. We think like, I don't know, maybe our good choices is producing good things, right? Is that like a temptation for us? Like when things are going really well, that's perfect. This is exactly what happens. When you do the right thing, you're going to be in the right place. It's not really true, is it? You might say, of course it is. I'm doing good. But until you do the right thing and it goes the wrong way, you start looking like, okay, where is this universe? It's supposed to be orderly. It's supposed to be governed by a good God. And I can't tell you how many times in my life where I've had to listen and look in my own life, expecting the righteous thing to happen. And it doesn't. And in fact, it's the opposite. This thing in farming or in gardening, they teach us a lesson, and it has to do with you have to be able to see the whole picture. If you're going to grow a garden or if you're going to do some farming things, you need to be able to see the whole picture. We're not just growing potatoes, like we're growing food. So you're not done until somebody puts those potatoes, roasted or smashed, right in the mouth, right? To be able to see that whole process. So along the way, you'll have little victories and setbacks along the way. And on the setbacks, you don't see the table. But it's only that you can stop and see the table that you'll actually see what's really going on. If you have a Bible, go to Psalms 73. In Psalm 73, it's not David writing this, it's Asaph. He is like a priest. He's a musician in the temple, and his job is to do music. I don't know if it's the violin or it's piano, maybe both, maybe just really good singer, right? But his job is to do music in the temple. And his job, he's like the minister of music. He starts out with this psalm. He starts with, God is good. And if I say, God is good, what do you say? And you say, all the time? And he says, yeah, baloney. So the next verse he says, I thought that was true, but it's not. After that first line, he goes down and he says, I envied the wicked, because the wicked, these despicable people, they're actually winning. They're getting rich. They work out and they get muscles. Everything they invest doubles, quadruples. They eat bad food and they never get sick. They destroy their bodies, but they look like they're beautiful. And he says, is this how it works in this world? I thought you said the righteousness will be okay. And he says, I am struggling. And Asaph will actually say, it's not just that they're winning, but I'm afflicted. I've got a bad knee, migraines, all kinds of things. And what's up with this world? And he said that. I almost believed all of this, but he says, I went all the way down the cliff to the edge, and I didn't jump. But what I did, right in the middle of that psalm, he goes into where? He goes into the sanctuary. And that's where he says, and I saw the end, to see the whole picture. And then he's not concerned about the evil people winning, because they might still winning, but he doesn't care about it anymore. Now he cares about what he really has. He sees what I have. I have God, His presence in my heart. He grabs my right hand and holds on to me. That's all I ever need. And that is his song all the way to the end. Huh. What an adjustment, an attitude adjustment. Instead of asking why them, instead of just affirm, what do you have? I have everything I need with God. If you need more, check your heart. Check your life. Number two, attitude adjustment number two. There's another story, Nebuchadnezzar. Remember that story? This is the guy who brought all of these young people into captivity. And so this is the guy who gets at the edge of the city and says, behold, this great empire that I have built. Like a cock banty rooster. This is mine. 4 chapters later, what is he doing? And it's not other people that are doing it, not people are clapping and cheering or anything like that. In chapter 4 in Daniel, his story warns us that judgment is God's work, not ours. And mercy can turn even an enemy into a witness of grace. Don't you see how awkward it would be to have Nebuchadnezzar, to have him at potluck? Previously, he just had this thing with the image and going to threaten people. Now, he spends several years being reduced completely. And can you imagine people who might have said, it's about time, right? He gets what he deserves. But in all of that, God is preparing him for a sermon, a life. Nebuchadnezzar, in chapter 4, he makes one of the most beautiful declarations of God's grace. I'm saying, don't be surprised that God will bring a witness of grace to the worst, unexpected people in our lives. It can happen. It has happened. So, again, what is it? Instead of saying, I hope they get what's coming, pray that the Lord will show greatness in their life. Might be one of the hardest prayers you'll ever pray for your enemy or the people that you think are just totally annoying. But what would happen if you cultivate that prayer in their life, that I really pray for the best for you? It changes your heart, changes heaven's arms to be able to empower those moments. Another one. Remember the words that Jesus said in Matthew chapter 7, verse 1? We've said this, and people who have never even read the Bible, they'll quote this verse, right? It says, no matter what, judge not. Don't judge others, right? And it's true that Jesus does say don't judge others. However, all the things that we do in life, we judge. We discern. We have to use that same brain, that same active impulse to decide anything in life. Don't judge others? That's not what it's about. So when people sit there and use that as some sort of a sense of truth is neutral, that is not what it's talking about. He's actually moving people in his kingdom to do more than just judge. He's telling us to live in a life of an active truth. We make judgments every day. What is right? What is safe? What is wise? What Jesus warns against in this kind of judging, it's about the kind of judging that's inaccurate and it's unhelpful. Our vision gets cloudy, so he uses the vision metaphor in this thing. He says, your perception will always be incomplete. And when you start thinking that you are 20/20, you're dangerous. It's only when you are aware that your vision prescription needs to be augmented, right? That's when you are safer. If you have a log in your eye, you can't see. If you have a speck in your eye, can you see? Doesn't matter. Whether you have a speck or a log, you can't see. You're rubbing your eyes are just watering. You can't see. And seeing, how can you possibly help a person with their eye when you can't see. And if we were to finish a period there, and if Jesus finished that story and that lesson right there, we would be fine. You can do your thing, I'll do my thing. Your thing is true for you, my truth is for me. But that's not where he ends it. He continues it and says, that's baloney. No, first of all, he says, deal with your vision. Whatever you have to do to get a little bit more clarity in your life, how are you going to do that? And what he's saying is that you need to bathe yourself in mercy. You need to go to a place where you'll find grace. You need to understand how wrong you are. And only the person who has bathed deeply into their own mercy and that experience is only safe to be able to say something to somebody else, to give instruction. But he does that. He says, no matter what, don't stop there. He commands us, first deal with your own sight. First take the plank out of your eye. Why? So that you can see clearly to help your sister and your brother. But I think it's too easy for us to just walk away, say that's that person's issue. But that's not what he was asking for. Don't attempt until you have vision has been clarified by repentance and mercy. Only then your judgment is safe. To condemn, no, that's not your job. Not at all. So you have these examples in the Bible that just supports Edom's situation. And Obadiah is saying, look, this is not going to last time you're going to hear this. This can happen over and over and over again. Before you point out a speck, ask what needs to be clean in my own life. So you have those little examples. Obadiah doesn't end with the attitude adjustment or anything like that. He gives the thing that we need to see if God's way is going to work for you. Okay? Verse 21. At the end of the book, it says this. This is deliverers will go up to Mount Zion to govern the mountains of Esau. And the kingdom will be the Lord's. What is he saying in that last sentence? What is he saying? He's saying at the final bell, God is ruling. God is sovereign. God is going to finish this story. Obadiah's closing vision looks beyond Edom into the future, not just in Judah's pain and situation, but to actually see God's kingdom restored in people's life. Now, of course, God's kingdom is coming, but it's also a present moment as well. And he's saying this, God's kingdom begins when you act like you are in heaven again. Now, we were told how to do that, right? Our Father who art in heaven, holy is his name. The next phrase, kingdom come. God's kingdom will come when? When we live on earth as they do it in heaven. In other words, until we start having heaven's rules and their focus and their mission statement and all of that, you're just going to destroy people here. We need to have that kingdom rules into our lives today. And I love Obadiah because I can tell you, There is a 1-second moment of satisfaction when you see someone being humbled who you think they need to be humbled. But it's short-lived. It doesn't make you kind. It doesn't deepen your sense of love. You don't have joy. You don't have any of those things that you think you're going to get. It's almost like a bad drug. The other side is to trust that in your moment, God will finish it well on behalf of you. Time that you might be impatient with, that's going to be your problem. To deal with the time, to be able to trust, to see God, to see this thing through. Do you ever, and I've been at the bedside of people in their final moments of life, and when they're coherent, I have never had one believer in Christ ever regrets the journey along the way. Not once. And so how do we do it? Well, it's not easy, and it's hard to do. And I don't think it happens immediately. And you can't just curb your attitude, but you can start finding those moments in your life that are annoying, or the things that are life's injustices, and start moving in a different direction. Maybe Peter's words that were written are the best to finish with. It says, all of you, clothe yourself with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. Okay, hard to do. If you sign up for this, this is what you get, okay? Humble yourself, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up when? In due time. Cast your anxiety on him. Well, why? He's our Father. He's our mother. He is the one who cares for us. And don't be so silly or short-sighted to think that you're just automatically protected on your own. He says this, be alert and of a sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. And how is he going to do it? With riches? Nope. Skills? Nope. Hurricanes? He's going to use pride to bring people down. I wonder why he learned that. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same types of things. We are all in that story. And it might be that people are looking and just laughing. There might be people who are saying, oh, those poor people. But I don't see that. I don't see people at the end of the journey saying, I regret this. No, I see people who are fortified with an unimaginable faith. Now, I wonder if that's where we're called to be, especially as we go into the coming days, in the weeks and months. I wonder if we're called to do that. I wouldn't pick Obadiah is my first, but I'm telling you now, if I pick one thing that might change our society today, maybe Obadiah is a little bit smarter than we thought.